Hi. This is gonna be just a quick little overview of the silk that I was showing off yesterday. All it does is really it's a full-on reduction for each of the knobs. That's kind of what they basically control. The whole thing's basically just like a smart EQ channel strip, where like the plugin itself kind of like recognizes what it's doing, audio-wise, and then just kind of like keeps making immediate adjustments to that. It's kind of like a low key, a bit of like a snake oil, but it works. But like here, let's just get a thing going. One day, did you know there were secret cult of vampires that live forever but not forever, for their emotions were darkness like black hole. But then the boy vampire was king of the sprinkle cupcake vampires that give. So that was like it's like pretty nice already. I mean, I'm using a fairly nice microphone. I wanted to make sure I wasn't using just like the top quality stuff and being like, haha, look how great it is. Now you do it. And then it's such like a huge waiver where people are using like $100 microphone, and then I'm using like pro level like Sennheiser 441 or like a Neumann TLM 103. So I'm using the Neat Microphones Worker B2, which is about like $100. I think that's the US price. It's like 130 up here. If you look at the things, it'll actually just, if you hover over everything, it'll just tell you exactly what they do. So you'll be able to choose between like what they call male and female quote unquote types. It's basically just like person with deeper, more like low end frequency in their voice and someone with more like higher ones. They should have just called it like voice 1 and 2, because I'm not a lady. I like the female one the most, so we're just gonna choose that one. Just gonna get it started. So like this will eliminate or start not eliminate. It'll tame frequencies in this range, 20 to 300 range. To be fully honest, when I'm streaming anyway, I use this here, and I just crank on a pass to about there ish, somewhere in between this range to the like 60 to 250. So it's not the most important for me, but like we're just gonna pretend not everyone has an EQ that they can immediately use. So if we listen to this, it'll only play music or the audio through the small channel there, the 220 to 300 range. So you can hear all like the boominess in there. So the more you turn it up, the more reduction that it's going to be having in the low pass or high pass there. And then you can choose how fast you want it to react to your sound. So it's a little bit more of like a dynamic EQ in that regard. So if you want that low end cut like as fast as possible, just shove it down and make the precision pretty sharp. So all of the stuff above this frequency range will be not really touched, and this will be like aggressively attacked. Versus slow, you can see it's just like changing really slow. I like it relatively fast, so about like there. With a smooth thing. Could family name was best at making crinkle cupcakes, and one day did you know there were. So now it has like that. So this is all taste. Don't do what I'm doing and just think that it's gonna work for you. I personally really like the old school radio sound, where there's not a lot of the low end, which modern radio kind of has now, especially with like studios that use the Shure SM7B or RE20. Like they're great microphones. I don't really like them as much, especially the 7B, because I don't like the low end on myself. I can't say that it's a like bad thing ever. I just don't like it. It's my least favorite. It's also kind of really finicky if your voice is not like perfect for it. I had a friend buy one recently, and he just gave me like the audio files to be like, what do I need to fix? And I went, honestly, nothing. You could get away with not EQing a single thing, and no one will ever like notice in your streams. But then I gave him like a little EQ anyway, that like kind of just gave a little bit more crispness to it. And then the mids here, you get a full range of 300 to 4,000 hertz. And that will just be kind of like the mid-range. I feel like I have a pretty boxy kind of tone, pretty nasally. So I like to get rid of it. Did you know there were secret cult of vampires that live forever but not forever, for their emotions? So it gets that like the thing. So you can like just annihilate it if you want it gone. So it has it has like a more like thin sound now when you like get rid of all of it, because that's where like the average people speaking voice, that's where it's like focused at. So I wanted to only reduct it just like a little bit. I don't know, like this is probably fine. One day, did you know there were secret cult of vampires that lived forever but not forever, for their emotions were darkness like black hole, but then the boy vampire was king of... Sorry, and then this delta symbol literally only plays what you're reducing so you can hear exactly what's being taken out, which is super helpful because you'd have to just kind of like let your ears try to figure it out. One day, with you just going, there were secret cult of vampires that live forever but not forever, for their emotions... It's like, it's really subtle. It's a lot of subtleties to it that changes everything. But the subtleties are honestly some of like the make it or break it. If you also kind of listen, my S's are pretty sharp. And in my, I'll bring up F6 again. This is why I like this plugin so much. I have a pretty sharp Q about like here, where every time my S's do go off, it'll just automatically like reduce it up to 8 decibels. So when my S's are sharp, it'll just go, boom, boom, boom. And that's what I like, because I just don't want that S's in there. This kind of does it for you. So this one, high and knob, it reduces the S's. It's like a built-in de-esser, or you can just make it a full-on shelf. I prefer just to use the shelf. That's just me though. If you like kind of like the clarity high end a lot, like the sparkle kind of like pop vocals, especially now, you want to keep that more on the knob rather than the sharp Q rather than the full shelf. But I don't want that. So, hey, did you know there were secret cult of vampires that live forever but not forever, for their emotions were darkness like black hole, but then the boy vampire was king of the sprinkle cupcake vampires that give cupcakes to people who need cakes. I forgot to turn it on. And the cupcake vampires eat the cupcakes, and that's how they get you blood. So then the youngest vampire named Edward Culinary, because their family name was best at making... So you can see like it jumped down at the S there. So then the youngest versus if I have it off. So then the youngest it's like not a lot. There's also like a noise gate if you want it. It's just if there's background noise, you can just set it to check between or like eliminate all sound below like 55 decibels. It's completely up to you and your room. If it's a little bit like noisier and you have like echo and you don't want it, or there's like sounds coming over from like the next room, just kind of learn what your sweet spot is. I'm in a basement in a 4-level split with no like immediate floor above me and just like at least a good couple feet of insulation and open space. So I'm kind of like cut off from the rest of the house. So it doesn't really matter for me. Not a lot of noise comes from down here anyway. But we're just going to turn it back on, so then or turn it on and just... Edward Culinary, because their family name was best at making crinkle cup. It also will help get rid of like mouse clicks. If you have like a little clicky mouse that gets picked up in the sound and you don't want to hear that. Depending on your keyboard, it might as well. I have silent keys, so it doesn't matter. You can't really hear much anyway. So let's just keep it around 60 and that'll probably be fine. And the last thing is just it's a compressor. I will stress this now. Compressors are not the end-all be-all. You will sound great if you put compressors on your stuff. A lot of compression. I don't know where, somewhere along the line it became just the understanding that if you put compressor it makes your song good. I don't use them a lot. I use them for drums and that's about it, because I just use this all the time. And then if there's any like frequencies that I don't like too much, I want them to be a little bit more compressed. Like if I have like a bass that I want to have like the low end but don't want to have an insane amount of it, I'll just throw on this, and then every time it reaches a little too high, it'll just duck itself down more. Or I have it side changed to where like if there's the kick drum going off, the bass will shut down really quickly for that kick so you can hear it. Vocal wise, unless like you really want your game audio to be like loud and equal to you, you don't really need to worry about like the side chaining that much. And then the compressor will just kind of help make everything a little bit more even in tone if you're like wildly different going up in volumes. But all it does is just normalizes the audio. So then the youngest vampire named Edward Culinary, because their family name was best at making crinkle cupcakes, and they, the boys of the family, were all total hotties, like real hot guys, and they go... So if you like crush it down, you can hear like the bit of room tone and like slight reverb of the room just like get maximized. That's why you don't want to use it a lot. I don't know, I throw It's like about a 5 is fine for me, and you'll just see that the red line is the audio reduction. So then the youngest vampire named Ted were culinary because their family name was best at making crinkle cupcakes, and they, the boys of the family, were all total hotties. Like real hot guys, and they go to this school, but they were the cool kids, and Nutella Swan was the new girl and had a crush on Tedward at first sight, but for some reason he could not turn her into a sprinkle cupcake vampire, even though he wanted her sprinkle power was beautiful, and a car tried to hit on her, but Tedward saved Nutella from the car, and Nutella fell in love with him. Then Tedward had the hardest thing to do in his life was to tell Nutella he was a cupcake vampire, so you can hear like the subtle differences, and then one with the plugin activated and turned on, it is a lot more crisp. It's way more like forward focused. There's not a lot of low end because I don't personally like it. That's a personal thing. If you want the low end, just don't use this one. You can turn it off and it won't be registered at all. One day, did you know there were secret cult of vampires that live forever but not for... And then let's say you only want the boxiness of your tone to be cut down. Just kind of, you can use these to cut it. One day, did you know there were secret cult of vampires that live forever but not forever, for their emotions were darkness like black hole. But then the boy vampire was king of the sprinkle cupcake vampires that give cupcakes to people. Actually make that a little lower. Cupcakes, and the cupcake vampires eat the cupcakes, and that's how they get you blood. Or if you have like a lot of low end and you really don't want that cut in, let's say you're using 7B and you do have a fairly low voice where it's making it extremely unflattering, that's when you would crank this up just so like it'll duck down only within the 2 dots and then the low end. One day, did you know there were secret cult of vampires? But yeah, a lot of it's really subtle. I don't like the boxiness. We're gonna get rid of it about here, make it a little bit more clean and nice and sharp. I have just like on this for whenever I go live, just like a really basic EQ where I'm just like, a cut here, a little boost there, a cut down in that like range that I didn't like before. That's a little bit wider. A tiny boost in the highs, and then a sharp cut here so the S's aren't terrible. And then I just, if there's any residual noise, I cut it out there. That's like a rough look at what I set my EQ at. But that's this. One day, did you know there were... Let me just move OBS over and have like just the nightmare time of all of that. And then just to add it into this, it's just the 3 dots, filters. You'll have to also install Wave Studio Rack. It's a free thing as well, don't worry about it. And just install Waves Rack. You just open the plugin interface. And then you can just choose which wave ones you have. I have the RTX. My thing just does this randomly. I don't know why. I think it's just OBS having a little freak out. But I was close. A little close. Oh, I went up here. I did a full top shelf. Anyway. Yeah, and then I have the loudness meter just as my limiter because it works nice. You don't really need it. You can just get a free limiter. It'll be fine. I own this for just the actual meter readings. And then there's the silk that I can add. Oh, why is it over there? Silk that I added here with just like the basic. Let me just cut it down a little bit more. And then, yeah, while it's active like this, it'll forever just work. And let me activate it with my EQ. How does it sound? I don't have direct monitoring, so I don't know. It'll be a surprise for you and me. Bye.